It's John, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That's how you'd like to be called, is it?
Yes, please, yes.
Well, Mary will ask you to take the oath, please, John.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to stand or remain seated?
You are very welcome to sit. Most people
Okay.
do sit, but if you'd like to
Thank you.
stand, that's also okay. So I'll give you that to hold. Please state your full name.
John David Peach.
Take the book in your raised hand and repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give,
shall be the truth,
the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
John, I'm going to ask you some questions about your sons, Lee and Jason Peach.
Aye.
They were both born with severe haemophilia A, I think.
Yes, they were, yeah.
Lee was born in 1966 and Jason in 1969.
Correct.
And they were under the care, to start with, of the Oxford Haemophilia Centre.
That's right.
Can you recall which doctors you used to see there generally when they were boys?
Mainly Dr. Ritzer and Dr. Matthews.
And your statement recalls them receiving cryoprecipitate in hospital there.
Yes, I did, yeah.
But there then came a point in time at which they had home treatment with concentrates.
I did, yes.
And your late wife, the boy's mother, would administer that treatment at home.
Yes, she did, yes.
And am I right in thinking that that was, as far as you can recall, NHS concentrates, Lister, you knew it as?
Yeah, the Lister product, yeah, I can, even when it was freeze-dried, it's still got Lister on it. Oh, yes, I could, because we used to keep that at home.
And you've referred to it in your statement as seeing it as a godsend.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Yeah, without it, I mean, when the freeze-dried stuff come out, they didn't have to put a drip and stop hours in hospital or at home. It was sort of instant. It was yes, definitely.
And in those years when they were receiving the treatment at home with the Lister freeze-dried product, do you recall Dr. Ritzer or Dr. Matthews or anyone else at Oxford ever telling you or your wife about any risks associated with treatment with concentrate?
No, not at all.
Now, there came a point in time at which the boys went to Treloar's, Lee first of all and then Jason. How did it come about that they went to Treloar's?
Well, they both attended normal school, but quite often you'd get a call from the school headmaster that one had had a bleed, and you had to go. And the nearest centre from us was Oxford, which was a 100 miles round trip. So when they got a little bit older, I said to Jim, "We've got to do something about that soon, Sue, that it's on." And it was the local council at Northampton that suggested Treloar's. So we went down, took the boys, and had a look, and that's how it went from there.
And we'll look in more detail about the treatment that each of them received for their haemophilia at Treloar's. But before we do that, I think you used to visit them regularly at Treloar's.
Most weekends.
And what can you recall about the school and their time there?
I think they enjoyed it, and we had no complaints at all. No, not at all. They was getting a good education. I mean, Lee was there, I'd say, before Jason. But Jason had it harder than Lee because Lee was quite academic, a lot more academic than Jason. And he made a lot of friends, made friends very easily, Lee did. But Jason, I don't think, did. So Jason had it a little bit harder.
And on those weekend visits, do you recall ever talking to any of the nursing or medical staff at the centre?
Not particularly, no.
And what about the teaching staff? Did you ever have much interaction with the teaching staff?
Oh, yes, yeah. I can't remember the names there, though. I'm sorry, can't remember the names.
Don't worry. But when you went at weekends, would you sometimes see a teacher or the head teacher or a housemaster?
Yeah, we was on first name terms with most of them. You just see them in the grounds, you'd chat with them, take Lee out for dinner and whatever, and then come back. A lot of his friends used to come with us too.
But in terms of the clinical and medical and nursing staff, you didn't really have anything to do with them when you visited?
No, not really. No, not really, no.
Now, we're going to look at some of the Treloar's records for each of the boys.
Okay.
We're going to start with Lee. Am I right in thinking he joined Treloar's in the autumn of 1978?
I think he did, yes.
And he was 11 or
He was
going on 12?
Yeah, he was born in 66, yeah. 12, just done 12.
If we have first up on screen, please, Shomik, TREL 40242_013. I'm just going to show you a couple of documents first, John, and then we'll talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a letter from Dr. Arenstam, who was a doctor at the Treloar's Haemophilia Centre, to Dr. Ritzer at Oxford, 5th of September 1980. It's about Lee. It says, this boy, who is registered with you, is, as you know, a pupil at the Lord Mayor Treloar College. We feel that he's now ready for training in self-therapy, and if you agree, could you let me know with which material you would like us to train him? And then if we look at the response from Dr. Ritzer, TREL 40242_012. We can see a letter dated the 11th of September from Dr. Ritzer back to Dr. Arenstam, which says, as far as I can see, Lee has received only NHS factor concentrate, and it would be nice if he could be supplied with that when you get him trained to treat himself. As you know, he's been on home therapy for many years now, the material being administered by his mother. He's a very sensible boy, and I'm sure you'll find no difficulties whatsoever with his training. So we can see there Dr. Ritzer saying Lee had only received NHS factor concentrate, so that's the Lister product, and that again was your recollection.
Yes, he was, yeah.
And we can see the reference here to Lee being trained to administer the product to himself. Do you recall that happening when
Yes, I
you visited?
do, yes, yes.
What would happen?
Well, as you say, I think he got the training at school, at Treloar's. You know, I mean, there are times when I went down there and Lee, we was going to take Lee out, and he'd say, "Oh, I'm going to go and have a dose because, you know, this the elbow hurts or knee hurts or whatever." And I'd go into the hospital with him, or the hospital wing with him, and he'd just open the fridge and get the paperwork out, weigh himself, and do it himself, which I was quite impressed with, actually.
And then, so we can see there the encouragement from Dr. Ritzer that Lee be supplied with NHS concentrate. But if we look at TREL 40242_041, this is some treatment records for Lee. If we go to the last page, please, Shomik, page 7, it's in reverse date order. So, John, what we've got here are records of treatments from 1978 through to 1980. And by way of example, if we go to the bottom of the page... Oh, no, I'm so sorry, Shomik. If we go to the top of the page, you were in the right place. My apologies. So we can see this is September 78. This is Lee's first term.
No, I am.
And the first concentrate we see recorded there, coate, then haemophil, then factorate, then coate again. If we go down the bottom of the page, haemophil, coate, haemophil, 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 coate, factorate. If we go just by way of example to one further page, page 6, please, Shomik. We can then see a Lister, so that's the NHS product, coate, Lister, coate, haemophil, and so on. We won't go through all the pages, John, but this document shows Lee being treated with, as well as with, from time to time, the Lister product, being treated with factorate, cryobulin, haemophil and coate, all of which were commercial concentrates. Were you and your wife ever told that Lee was being treated with commercial concentrate?
No.
And were you ever told,
No.
given any information about any risks associated with the use of concentrates?
No, this is the first time I've ever seen this.
You saw this morning and you'd never been shown
No.
this before, I think.
No. No, not at all. So the only one I recognise on that is Lister.
And I think I'm right in understanding, John, that as far as you can recall, you and your wife never received any medical information from Treloar's whatsoever.
No, no.
Um,
We weren't even informed when they was in, got a bleed or anything like that, really.
Can we look next at TREL 40242_034, please? Now, this is a document which, again, you'd not seen before giving your evidence. Not seen until preparing for giving your evidence today, I think. It says, please complete and return to Dr. Aronston. And then that's your late wife, the boy's mother's
Yes,
signature.
Susan, yeah.
Agree to Lee, or her name, Lee Peach, taking part in a trial as explained by Dr. Aronston, and then she signed it. We've redacted the signature. Do you know anything about this document or what she'd been asked to agree to?
Except, no, not at all. Not at all.
And it's not dated, but we know, I think, from your statement that the boy's mum died in was it 1980?
84, yeah.
So it's dated, it's from some time before that, but you don't know when.
No, definitely not.
There are records. Well, we'll look at one example. TREL 40241_017, please. So this is a letter. It's a later letter in time. Again, it's from Treloar's to the Oxford Haemophilia Centre. This is the 11th of December 1984. If we go a little further down the page, please. If we look at the second paragraph, it talks about almost all of Lee's bleeds so far this term were into his right ankle.
Mm-hmm.
He's also had 5 bleeds into this joint during the summer holiday. We've started him on another course of prophylaxis, 20% raised on alternate days on the 28th of November 1984. Were you ever made aware by Treloar's that Lee was being treated prophylactically?
No. No, not as I recall.
And if we look at the very last paragraph of this letter, we can see there's a reference there to a change to heat-treated factor 8 for patients who were taking commercial factor 8. Was there ever any discussion with you in late 1984 or any other time about a switch to heat-treated concentrates for Lee?
No, we knew it was available, but we didn't know that the boys were getting it. Just to remain unchanged.
If we look then at TREL 40242_043. We can see here a record for Lee, and on the left-hand column is headed serum hepatitis, and then there's a reference in 1979 to positive tests for antibody. Was that something that was ever drawn to your attention or discussed with you or your wife?
Not at all, no.
And then we know, if we look at TREL 40241_037, we know from an exchange of correspondence here about liver function tests. I'm going to just read some little extracts from each of the 3 letters and then ask you about it, John. So, Shomik, could we go to the third page, please? So we can see this is a letter from a Dr. Gosh at Oxford Haemophilia Centre to Dr. Aronstam at the Treloar Centre. It's the 4th of February 1980. This copy happens to have Lee's name redacted, but it's about Lee. It's from his records. And it says, recently I've seen Lee in Oxford. You probably know he has persistently abnormal liver function tests since 1976. I took the opportunity to repeat these tests. And then the last part of that paragraph says, I'm more or less sure that he has some chronic liver disease. And the next paragraph asks Treloar's to keep an eye on his liver function. Can you recall either Oxford or Treloar's ever informing you about this
No,
issue?
that's the first time I've ever seen it.
And then if we go to the second page of this bundle, please, Shomik. We can see Dr. Arenstam's response, 14th of February 1980. Again, it is concerning Lee, although the name's redacted on these copies. Says, we're well aware of his liver function tests, and for your information, I enclose a copy of our records so far. We keep a very close watch on the liver function tests on all the boys at this college. I'm inclined to take issue with you on the significance of his marginally elevated SGOTs. If this small degree of elevation is significant, then approximately 95% of the boys at this college, and by implication of all severe haemophiliacs in this country, have chronic liver disease. Again, this is then from Dr. Arenstam, whose care Lee was at Treloar's. Was this issue ever explored with or raised with you or your wife?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And just for the sake of completeness, if we just go to the first page, we can see Dr. Gosh at Oxford writing back to Dr. Arenstam on the 19th of February 1980 saying, truly speaking, I do not know what these marginally elevated liver function tests and haemophiliacs mean, particularly in the absence of any other stigmata of chronic liver disease. But as you know, invasive investigations in this group of patients more often than not show some liver changes suggestive of chronic liver disease. As I understand it, none of the clinicians involved in Lee's care ever spoke to you or your wife about the possibility of liver disease?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Can we then please, Shomik, have TREL 40-241_016? This is another letter, John, from Treloar's to Oxford, stated the 19th of March 1985. Says, for your information, I enclose copies of 1, his bleeding episodes, that's Lee's, and transfusions so far this term, 2 laboratory results. He was tested for anti-HTLV3 for the first time on the 23rd of the 1st, 84, and was found to be positive.
I think that must be 85.
Well, so possibly. We see this terminology used in multiple letters. So,
Oh, I see what you mean. So you think it's back test?
Well, we say it's very puzzling wording, sir. We discussed this with John this morning, so I'm sure he'll forgive us for talking about this. We know that HTLV3 testing was not available in January 1984. The language used here could either be explained by a mistake in the year, but it appears in relation to different patients as well, in different sets of records on different dates, or it could be a reference to retrospective testing. That those would be the two ways of making sense of it. And we can see at the bottom of the page, it tells us Lee will be leaving the sixth form college. Oh, that's just for the holidays, sorry. So this is a record in March of 1985. Treloar's telling Oxford that Lee had been tested for HTLV3 and the test result was positive. Did Treloar's share that information with you, Lee's father?
No,
then or
definitely
at any time?
No, it's got to have been 2 or 3 years later than that we found out that Lee was positive.
We'll look at some correspondence about that in a little while. But
Yeah.
you, as I understand it, John, you were never told by Treloar's
No,
that
definitely
Lee
not.
had tested positive
No.
for HTLV3. And as far as you're aware, was Lee ever told by Treloar's that he tested positive?
Well, if he had been, he would have discussed it with us. He was that kind of lad. And Jason, no, I'm sure they weren't.
And Lee left Treloar's in the summer of 1985, and at that point in time, you had no idea, and as far as you understand it, Lee had no idea
No, that's
that he
right.
was HTLV3 positive. I'm going to ask you to look now at some records relating to Jason. Jason joined his brother at Treloar's, I think, in the autumn of 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at TREL 40-239_137, please. We can see here again. This is
Jason.
these are records from Jason's first term, the autumn term of 1981. If we go, first of all, Seamus, because they're in, I think, reverse date order, to page 10. If we look down the left-hand side, we can see an entry just over halfway down the page, units material. And we see there the reference to 530 units of Lister. So we can see Jason being treated with a Lister product on the 4th of November. If we go back to page 9, Shomek. In the same column, again, we've got a treatment on the 9th of November with the Lister product.
520, yeah.
If we go then to page 7, we can see, if we look at that same reference, units material, 550 factor 8. So by the 15th of November, Jason's been treated with an American concentrate, factor 8. If we go to page 6, it's Lister again in that entry. If we go to page 5, we're now on the 26th or so of November, and the entry there is haemophil, so that's another commercial concentrate that Jason was treated with. And then if we go to page 2, Shomek, we can see in the same entry a reference to something called Interhem, which was another commercial concentrate. Were you told that Jason was going to be treated not simply with NHS Lister products, but with other concentrates?
As far as we are as parents, I mean, I just thought that was one product, just called freeze dried. It was the product that was had at home. I didn't realise all this was on the market.
So no one at Treloar has ever told you about different products, and no one told you the boys were going to be treated with them?
No, definitely not.
And did anyone at Treloar ever tell you about any risks associated with the treatment?
Well, we knew there was a risk of jaundice, because Leah, you go back and you just look at him and you say, well, why are you so yellow, and then they'd explain that, he got a bit of jaundice in the product. Apart from that, nothing else.
So Lee would occasionally go a bit yellow, and you understood that to be something mild?
Well, yeah, something that was just, they couldn't avoid.
And then if we go next to TREL 40239 underscore 126. These are some treatment records for Jason from March of 1983, and we can take them in the correct order this time. So we can see the first product here, again, it's in that same column, unit materials, is Lister. And there are various dates on this page if we read across 3 occasions when he's given Lister. But if we then go to page 6, please, Shomek. We can see in the same month, so the 14th of March 1983, Jason was given factor 8, which was a commercial product. And if we go to the next page, we've got a bleed on the 25th of April 1983, and Jason was given 600 units of Co-8. So again, the various different products were continuing to be given to Jason in 1983, and still nothing being...
No, nothing at all, no. So it's the first time I've ever seen these.
Shomek, can we have TREL 40239 underscore 037? We've got a letter here, John, 7th of July 1983, about Jason. Again, it's from Treloar to Dr. Matthews at the Oxford Haemophilia Centre. And if we go towards the bottom of the page, we can see a heading there in July 83, AIDS-related investigations. Clinically, he exhibits none of the stigmata of AIDS. Examination of his superficial lymph nodes on the 14th of March 83 revealed palpable small left axillary lymph nodes. For your information, we have undertaken the enclosed AIDS-related tests. We are repeating these tests before the end of term, and will let you have the results when they are available. Were you told, John, that your son was having AIDS-related investigations and tests undertaken at Treloar?
No, especially not that early, 1983. Christ.
And then if we turn to TREL 40239_105. These are some extracts from Jason's medical notes at Treloar's. If we go to page 4, please, Shomek. There's an entry, it's the third entry down for the 1st of July 1984. So we just go slightly up, thank you. We can see there, John, it says L node, so that's lymph nodes, and various examinations recorded. And then it says AIDS stigmata exhibits none of the stigmata of AIDS. So we can see that there's a further examination. This is the following year, July 84, looking for the signs of AIDS. Again, was anything being said to you? Had anything been said to you about the risk of AIDS?
No, not at all.
And if we go on to page 6, please. Can we zoom in, Shumik, on the bottom right-hand corner? So you'll see there, John, in the bottom right-hand corner, something called medical report, 28th of November 1984.
Yeah.
And it talks about average number of bleeds, mainly into left elbow, several courses of prophylaxis, and then there's some further information about the frequency of the bleeds. But it's about the bleeds and the position in relation to treatment for the elbow. And then it says, has had a good turn.
Yes, right.
Do you recall whether you ever received these medical reports?
I can never remember seeing one. No, not at all.
And if we go on to page 11, please, Shomek. The second entry looks like it's the 3rd of July 1985. There's a reference there to lymphadenopathy/AIDS. And then it looks like, about 4 lines down, has had some thrush and difficulty in swallowing. And then the last line says, apart from this, no other stigmata of AIDS. So this is July 85.
For 7 weeks. Yes?
Sorry, sir?
For 7 over 52.
Yes,
For
sorry,
7 weeks.
yes, you're right. Were you told at this stage by Treloar's, July of 85, that some symptoms consistent with the possibility of AIDS had been identified by Treloar's in Jason?
No.
I think Jason left college in May of 1986. Is that right?
Yeah. That's something like that.
We can take that down. Your recollection in your witness statement and your recollection today, as I understand it, John, is that you learnt of both boys being infected with HIV
At the same time, yes.
at the same time, and from the Oxford Haemophilia Centre.
Exactly.
You were never told by Treloar's about either of your son's infections.
No.
And as far as you're aware, were your sons, either of them, ever told by Treloar's about their infections?
No, I'm sure they weren't.
Because they'd have spoken to you.
They would have done.
Can we look at JPEA 601_038? So we can see here, it's a document. It's not one that you would be expected to see, and this is from the Oxford records, not the Treloar's records, but we've got their HTLV3 risk. There's a date, it looks like the top left-hand corner, 20th of August 1985. Your recollection, as I understand it, is that you were not, even at this point in time, August 1985, aware of any HIV test results.
No.
And then if we go to JPEA 601_031, please. There'd been a letter, I don't have it available for display, but we looked at it this morning, John, before you gave your evidence. There'd been a letter from Dr. Ritzer, undated, talking about having tests available now in relation to Jason and asking if you wanted to know. And this is a letter from you, 18th of November 1985, to Dr. Ritzer. Thank you for your recent letter regarding the AIDS-related virus tests carried out on Jason. As mentioned, you've had 3 test results for Jason, and I would appreciate it if you would please drop me a line with the findings. And then if we just go to Dr. Ritzer's response, and then I'll ask you about it, John. JPEA 601_030. This is a letter dated the 12th of December 1985 from Dr. Ritzer, addressed to you. Thank you for your letter. The results of tests on Jason show that he is HDLV3 antibody positive, which means that he has at some time been in contact with the virus and has made antibodies to it. It does not mean that he has AIDS or is going to get it. The vast majority of people who are antibody positive are in good health and remain in good health. Only a very small number have any health problems. I suggest that you come to the centre with or without Jason to discuss in more detail what this all means. Now, I think, John, in your statement, your recollection was that you'd been told about the boys' results later than this. You thought it was about 19...
I thought it was later than this, but I say these letters must be right.
And you've got a recollection, I think, of going into the centre and talking to Dr. Ritzer.
Yeah, well, yeah, we received a call. I was doing the garden, and June was with me then, and she said we just had a call from the Oxford Haemophilus Centre about the boys that tested positive. So I said, well, we better go down and see him. So we went down to Oxford and spoke to Dr. Ritzer.
Can you recall, were the boys with you, both of them?
I think they were. I'm sure they were.
And can you remember anything about what you were told?
Well, they were quite well. I mean, this is before the AZT was ever mentioned or anything like that. We were just told to just carry on taking the factor 8 or the treatment, and that it may not. It don't mean to say that they're going to get full-blown AIDS.
And then just one last document, JPEA 601_043. We can see that exchange of correspondence and that letter from Dr. Ritzer, December 85. This is March of 1985, so some months earlier. Dr. Wassoff had written, so Dr. Wassoff, the doctor at Treloar, had written to Oxford, saying in relation to Jason, he was tested for anti-HDLV3 for the first time on the 13th of January 84 and was found to be positive. So you'll see why I said that wording appears in a number of letters and not just in relation to the boys. Whether or not that date is wrong or reflects retrospective testing, it clearly shows Oxford being told by Treloar's Jason was HTLV3 positive in March 1985. But you were never told that.
No.
You told us we can take that down, thank you. You told us in your witness statement that both boys were working after they left college.
Yes, they were.
I think Leah's a graphic designer and Jason with a local estate agent.
That's right.
You said that after the diagnosis for both of them, you talked about your world falling apart for all of you.
Well, when it came out in the papers, you know, and they were stigmatised then. I mean, they couldn't get dental treatment. They couldn't travel abroad. What Lee used to do with his job. Quite tough then. And
I think they were treated, both of them, with AZT.
Pardon?
Were they treated, both of them, with AZT?
Yes, they put them on. I had a note. They put them on it. I think June gave me a note when they actually put them on it. AZT. Let's put it on. We did keep some notes when they was actually put on that. Lee was. Yeah, Lee. This is Lee, not we don't know. I can't remember Jason, but Lee was started AZT in 1990, and he was on it for. I mean, we didn't want him to take it because he was fine. He was. If you looked at the picture with the three of us together, he looked perfectly well. But after being on it 7 months, he was absolutely shadowing himself. He got. If you looked at the side effects of AZT, I think Lee had every single one. Every single one. And they took him off it. And they started, but he got so bad that they put him back on it in July 91. Yeah.
And you don't know the dates for Jason, but he too was on AZT.
He was on AZT as well, yeah. I mean, I don't think Jason had the same resistant, side effects that Lee did. Lee had it really, really bad.
You told us in your statement both of your boys tried to make the best of things. They found happiness with their respective girlfriends.
Yes, they did. I mean, once they got they got the initial payment, they decided that they'd like to. We went down to see Dr. Matthews, and he virtually told us that if they got any, once the symptoms start, which will probably be. Will probably be an irritating cough. No, they wouldn't last 4 years. So they decided they'd like to. Well, Lee got married.
He brought his wedding forward, I think.
And Jason moved in with his girlfriend. We still kept very close, but
Jason's health deteriorated, and
yeah,
he died in 1993, aged 23 years old.
yeah.
And just 5 months later, Lee died, aged 27.
He did. Lee was more concerned that when he died, he didn't want to. He knew it was they called it a gay plague, and most of the gay lads that died got very bad skin lesions. Lee didn't want that. And the doctors virtually told him how he's going to die.
Would you like a 5-minute break, John?
I'll be all right in a minute. That his lungs wouldn't take any more oxygen in. And I was. I was holding Lee's hand when he died. Just couldn't even believe he'd gone. Sorry.
I've stopped the broadcast.
How?
You just take a minute, John.
Yeah, they said he'd died from cystic pneumonia. That's what they told him he'd die from. That this pneumonia would just get worse. He had nebulizers before that for quite a long time. He had to spend lots of time on a nebulizer to keep himself breathing. But to see somebody just go like that, it's horrendous.
John, I know one of the things you mentioned in your statement had been about the waiver that they had to sign.
Yes.
in order to receive
Yeah.
some money, and you talked about it in terms of feeling like it was blackmail.
Well, it was. I mean, all the lads will tell you, and they'll all say the same story. And we were actually sat in the solicitor's office, and the papers are in front of them, and they said, if you don't sign it, if every one of the 1,200, I think about 1,200 at the time, didn't sign it, then nobody would get anything. And Lee was more concerned that the people that really needed the money, you know. So he said, it's going to do no harm, Dad. He said, in 4 years I might not be here anyway. So that's what they did, they signed it.
And if we just think back to the time that they were at Treloar's, it sounds from your evidence, John, as though throughout the period that both your boys were at Treloar's, you never received any medical or clinical information about their progress, their bleeds, their treatment, or risks whatsoever.
I can honestly say we didn't, no, not at all.
John, I'm going to, in a moment, just put some photos up of the boys. Before I do that, I'm just going to ask Mr. Snowden if there's anything further he wants me to ask. So we've got 3 photos you've shared with us. Show me JPEA 604.
Yeah,
It's you and the boys.
it was. And that was about 1986, 87, I think. 87. That's when I married my second wife. That was at the wedding. You know, you can see how well they were then.
Yeah.
That's, they do really well.
And then we've got a couple of photos of them from childhood. JPEA 605, please.
Yeah.
And then one last photo, 06, please, show me.
Yeah. Yeah.
John, those are the questions I have for you.
Pardon?
Those are the questions I have for you, John. So, Brian, is there anything you have to ask?
Just the one question.
Yeah.
When you learned that the boys, I think it was Lee, had yellow skin, had jaundice, who did you find out that it was jaundice from? From him or from anybody else?
From it must have been one of the doctors. We knew it. Well, the wife's pretty medical. You know, she's not a trained medicine, but she knew exactly what it was. That was jaundice.
So you weren't actually told by anyone. She just knew.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Well, thank you very
We
much.
just told that it eventually that would clear up, you know. But it did. But every now and again they get it back. During their whole lifetime, you know, they've had it more than once. You know, it would clear up, and then they'd probably get it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
John, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just read out the. I'm going to miss these boys every day. Every day. Yeah, every day. I just want to thank you all for, especially all the witnesses. I don't know how they got through it, some of them. And thank you for the time, the inquiry. It's been a long time coming. But my own thoughts is this whole scenario could have been avoided if David Owen's commitment had been carried out. I think that, you know, when you think there was a commitment by a minister and it didn't get, somebody cancelled it somewhere along the line. They just cancelled the whole thing. It never went through Parliament. And to me, that was a criminal act. That should be a criminal act. The people responsible for distribution and regulation of blood products, a lot to answer for. All I ever wanted was the truth, and I hope this inquiry delivers it. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you, John. You said at the end there that you don't know how the other witnesses did it. I have the sense that you must have approached giving evidence with some dread, but felt you just had to do it.
Yeah,
Am I right?
I know a lot of these lads from school, you know, and it's. Remember a lot of them that are gone.
It seems to be against the natural order that any child should die before a parent.
Exactly.
And all I would like to say to you is I think you've given a fitting tribute to your two sons
Thank you.
from start to finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if we break for lunch and then we'll resume with the evidence of Gary this afternoon.
Well, back at 2.
Yes, sir.
2 o'clock.